cannot see anything. When you put those together, you see how and you see the what. Unfortunately, the atheist, when they go through science, they only see the hows, but they do not see the whys. And that's their biggest problem. This is one fallacy. The other one, brothers and sisters, according to epistemology, to knowledge, whoever believes in something, he has the burden to prove it. For example, I believe that Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam is the rightful successor of the Prophet. This is my belief. The burden of a proof is on me. I have to prove this fact. This is my hypothesis. I have to prove it. If someone comes and says, no, it is not true. Ali ibn Abi Talib is not the rightful successor of the Prophet. He also has the burden of a proof to prove it. He cannot simply say no and then has a free ride. Whoever declares whether something is positive or negative, he has to prove it. So it is in the same manner, those people, the atheists, when they declare that God does not exist, they have to prove it. It's not only the burden of proof is on me because I believe in God, I always have to prove that God exists. You know, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, قُلْ هَاتُوا بُرْهَانَكُمْ إِن كُنْتُمْ صَادِقِينَ. Give me the evidence, give me the proof, show me how God does not exist. This is it. But just following blindly is not acceptable. You see, the Almighty in the Holy Quran scorn those people who follow blindly others, even if you are on the rightful sect, on the rightful religion and rightful faith. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, no. You have the burden, you have the responsibility to dig, study, search, and find out. Even if you believe that you are on the true path, tomorrow the Almighty asks you, how did you become a follower of Ahlul Bayt? You should have an answer. You cannot say because of my father and my parents both believed in the, in Ahlul Bayt, therefore I became. Yes, it's beautiful that they believed in Ahlul Bayt and they introduced us to Ahlul Bayt, but still, burden of proof is on us. Whatever belief you have, you should prove it. This is a fact. The Almighty says in the Holy Quran, it says that وَكَذَلِكَ مَا أَرْسَلْنَا مِنْ قَبْلِكَ فِي قَرْيَةٍ مِّن نَذِيرٍ إِلَّا قَالَ مُتْرَفُوهَا إِنَّا وَجَدْنَا آبَاءَنَا عَلَى أُمَّةٍ وَإِنَّا عَلَى آثَارِهِمْ مُقْتَدُونَ. Whenever God sends a prophet, a messenger to people, those aristocrats, those wealthy and affluent people, they tell him, we have seen our parents following this path, therefore we followed them. The Almighty scorned them. So that this is not the right way. You need to search, you need to find out for yourself. And this is what is the burden of a proof on the atheist, on the agnostic also. To come up with an answer, not just to negate the fact that God does not exist. This is first fallacy. The other thing, brothers and sisters, is the definition of God. When they say that we deny God, which God you are denying? Tell me, define to me what kind of God you are denying. You told me how many gods are there? I told you many. Just look at Christianity. Look at Judaism. Tomorrow, inshallah, we will be talking about the Holy Quran, and I will dwell on the scripts and say the difference between the Holy Quran and the rest of the Holy Scripts. And we will be talking about the nature of God. Now, when you examine those monotheistic religions, for example, Christianity, into how many gods they believe? They believe in Father, they believe in Son, they believe in Holy Spirit. What's the difference between the two? When it comes to Judaism, again, they have multiple ones. When you come to Islam, look at Islam. Which God of Islam we believe in? The God of the Shia, or the God of the Sunnis, or the God of the Sufis, or the gods of Ash'ara, or the gods of Mu'tazila. When you tell me there are so many different, I tell you, look at the literature. Read the literature and see how they explain, how they come up with the definition of God. You know, we have one scholar that is called Shaykh al-Islam. They call him Shaykh al-Islam, Ahmad ibn Taymiyyah. Probably you've heard of his name. He's the ideologue of the Salafis, the Wahhabis. You know, I don't want to denigrate, but Al-Qaeda, ISIS, their ideologue was the Salafis, and one of them is Shaykh al-Islam. Let's go to his book and see how he defines God. Whose God is this? Look, he narrates the Prophet. He says that the Prophet has said that. This is in his book, Talbis al-Jahmiyyah. It says that, and this is narration that I'm quoting the prophets. This is what he says, the Prophet has said. He says that رَأَيْتُ رَبِّي فِي صُورَةِ شَابٍ أَمْرَتْ. I have dreamed of my Lord. I've seen my Lord. How does he look like? فِي صُورَةِ شَابٍ أَمْرَتْ لَهُ وَفْرَةُ جَعَدٍ قَضَى فِي رَوْضَةٍ خَضْرَاء. I've seen my Lord, a young, handsome man that doesn't even have a beard, with a long, too many of curly hairs in a posture. Who says this? According to Ibn Taymiyyah, this is the words of the Prophet. The Prophet described his Lord. A man with a curly hair, a handsome man with a curly hair. Those of you who are old enough, if you remember the Argentinian legend, Diego Maradona. You remember Diego Maradona? With his curly hair? You know, something close to that. You know, this is a description of Ahmad ibn Taymiyyah about his God. Which God do we believe in? The God of Ahmad ibn Taymiyyah or the God of Ali ibn Abi Talib? Let's look at what Ali ibn, how Imam Ali described God. Look at how he describes him. The Imam says, من وصفه فقد حده ومن حده فقد عده ومن عده فقد أبطل أزله. Whoever gives God a human feature, he has considered him to have limits. You know, when I say that he has a curly hair, the curly head or hair only fill certain space, and the rest becomes a vacuum, devoid from him. When I attribute hand to God, this hand is occupying this space, but this space doesn't have a hand. Therefore, God is what? Big or small? So Ali ibn Abi Talib says, whoever attributes a human feature to God, he has given him limit. And whoever gives him limit has counted him. You know, 1 in opposition to 2, in opposition to 3. Which one is bigger, 2 or 1? Obviously 2 is bigger than 1. وَمَنْ عَدَّهُ أَبْطَلَ أَزَلًا. And this God is no more God. He's not a primordial. He's an emergent. He's an accidental. This is the description of Ali ibn Abi Talib about his God. So when we come in front of an atheist, we should ask him, which entity you are denying? Maybe the one that he's denying, I am denying as well. And the one that I am proving, he's also proving. So the problem has to be with the nomenclature and definition. We should know which God that they are, denying. Anyway, let's go back to the topic after your salawat.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Let's start with some, I'm just going to be talking about a few bullet points quickly and move on. To answer them, let's go and talk about the universe, which is the mother of all questions. They talk about evolution. Let's say we will go even one step beyond evolution. Evolution took place on this planet. Let's not talk about the planet. Let's talk about the universe. How did this universe came about? Is this universe a primordial, meaning that it's ever since the history, this universe was existed without any origin, without any start? That's why we call it a primordial. Or it had a point in which it had started, or we call it emergent. Which one? If we say that it is primordial, then there is no reason to ask who caused it, because it is there. It is there for billions, quadrillions, whatever billions of years. It didn't have an origin. Therefore, it does not make any sense to ask who has originated. But when you say that this universe is emergent, it had an origin, then the question comes, how did it become? Who has made it? You know, the logic, and this is a logical point, that all of humanity agree, and that is cause and effect. Whenever there is an effect, this door gets slammed and closed. You would ask, who did it? Was it the hurricane that is coming to Florida, or somebody else knocked on the door, or somebody with a bullet shot at it? What happened? There must be a cause. It cannot be by itself. Cause and effect. But when you say that this door was closed for so many years, then the question of who made it close, it gets cancelled. Does not make any sense because it is closed forever. You see my point, brothers and sisters? So the question toward this universe, how is this universe? Was it a primordial or it's emergent? When you examine the existence of this universe, all theoreticians tell you that this universe is an emergent. And as you know, as you've heard, this theory that is called the Big Bang theory. This model explains that this universe started from a very tiny, small, yet very hot and energetic spot, and all of a sudden it expanded. How many years? I tell you, between 13 to 14 billion years ago. This is how this universe was formed, through a Big Bang. Now, this Big Bang, this sudden expansion of the universe, defined all the physical laws of this universe. Something that did not exist, all of a sudden become existent. And this one defies the physical laws, the laws of physics, the laws of thermodynamics. Those who take science, the first thing that they teach us in science, that energy and matter are not created nor destroyed. Rather, they change from one phase to another. But this tiny little spot, all of a sudden expanded. From where? How did it expand? By itself? Spontaneous? Or should have a cause? What is the cause of this? Not only that, there are a few points that I want to mention. The fact that it kept expanding and maintaining itself is doing against all odds. It cannot happen unless there's some purpose into this. Let me explain this, brothers and sisters. I will make it very simple so you don't get confused. You know, the scientists say the four powers, the four forces that hold this universe are four. One of them is called the gravity. The other one is called the electromagnetic force. And number 3 and 4 are called the weak and strong nuclear forces. Let's not talk about the definitions of those. Let's choose the simplest one. The gravity. You know, the gravity that we experience in our life. This gravity has a number. It has a constant. Those constants, there are 25 constants that the physicists, have discovered. Those constants have precise numbers, and you have to find them. They're not formulation, rather by experimentation, meaning that you have to do so many experiments in order to reach these constants. They have a very defined and specific numbers. Take gravity, for example. The gravity that holds this universe, that holds the earth close to the sun, holds the moon close to earth. These are all through gravity. Scientists say that if you tamper this number in 1 billion, meaning 1 and divided billion times, if you make the gravity less, this universe have expanded so rapidly and would have not made any galaxies and any stars and any constellation. It became a sterile universe, just a vacuum. This is what, if you made the gravity tinier, in 1 billionth of a fraction, less, in value than what is currently right now. If you made it more stronger, the minute that this universe expanded, it would crunch again and becomes nothing. So how did it become so, expanding? What made it possible that it keeps expanding? Is because of the very, very specific and well-defined number. What made that well-defined number? How did it come to have that defined number? This is number one. Second, when you look at our solar system, we have the sun, then we have Mercury, then we have Venus, then we have Earth, then we have Mars, and then we have Jupiter. Jupiter is the biggest planet in the solar system. The question, why Jupiter is in a very close proximity to Earth? Many scientists were thinking, why does that happen? Then they realized that the gravity in Jupiter is so strong that it attracts any asteroid that is coming toward the solar system. If Jupiter were not there were so many asteroids would come and destroy Earth. Who made Jupiter so close to Earth? Why did it got there? According to probability, Jupiter should be somewhere else. It doesn't have to be exactly in that point. You see, I'm just giving you bullet points so later on you can go and dwell and search. Other things. Liquids, when you take any liquids, this is water. Go take oil. Any sort of liquids, oil, fuel. When they freeze, they always freeze from bottom to top. This container, if this were oil and you wanted to freeze it under, extreme coldness, it's not at 0 degrees, you will see that from bottom started to freeze until it reaches top, except water. Water always freezes from top and goes to the bottom. Why? Why is it so? What is the reason? Because if we're similar to the liquids, other fluids, then you would not see life in the oceans. All lives in oceans would have been destroyed. And Darwin says that life in this universe started, and this planet started from ocean. Therefore, if ice would have freezes from bottom and goes all the way up, then you wouldn't see any species anymore. Why did that? Why in particular only water? So these are things that we need to think about. Earth rotates around the sun. In the 24 hours, it rotates, in the 365 days of the year, it rotates around the sun. And also it rotates around itself in the 24 hours. How fast? 1,000 miles per hour. This is how fast Earth rotates around itself. Let's say that instead of 1,000 miles per hour, it rotates 10,000 miles per hour. Why not? Physically, it's acceptable. It could have happened. Why not? Or 1/10 less, and instead of moving 1,000 miles per hour rotating, it would rotate 100 miles per hour. What would have happened? Do you know what would have happened? If it would go too slow, the days and night will multiply in 10. And instead of having 12 or 15 hours of day, we will end up having 150 hours of day. And 150 hours of night. And at that time, either we get roasted during the day or frozen to death during the night. You see how it came to be perfect in these points, in these numbers? So who made them? These are the questions that we pose to the atheists. We told them, think about them. Come up with a question, come up with an answer. And these will explain the whys. So these are about the, scientific evidence. I don't have time, we need to move faster. I wanted to talk about very important point. Extremely important point that unfortunately the seculars, the atheists, the agnostic tend to overlook. And that is the universal morality. The universal morality. this important topic. I will talk about it after your big and loud salawat. You see, for the sake of argument, for one moment, let's say that God does not exist. There is no such a thing called God. Let's just assume for 1 minute. Then what is the plausible explanation of the creation? It's evolution, And according to their own explanations, that evolution took place. There were aggregates of minerals, atoms, elements for so many billions of years. Eventually, it gave a single cell. This single cell lived and multiplied to give multiple cells and multiple species. And from there, we have so many divergent species. This is the plausible explanation of evolution. So basically, we are, as a human, we are very highly organized rocks and minerals. We are rocks, sands, minerals, atoms, and elements. These are what we are, because it was our origin. These were our origins. The question, then, if we are highly organized rocks, then do we know what is right and what is wrong? Can we understand what is morality? What is evil? What is goodness? How can we explain those things? For example, I tell you a big rock is sliding from the mountain and falling on small rocks and crushing them. Is this good or this is bad? What is the answer? The answer is these objects are immoral. They are neither good nor bad. They are following the law of physics, the law of gravity. You cannot say this action is good or this action of bad. Therefore, morality does not apply to these type of things. Morality does not apply to the highly organized rocks. If we believe that we are only, highly organized rocks and minerals, so morality does not find any place in our life. Meaning that we can kill, we can murder, we can lie, we can cheat, without considering those things to be bad and negative. Or valuable things like kindness, sacrifice, generosity, those also lose their meaning. According to evolutionary biologists, they talk about natural selections. What does natural selection mean? Natural selection means like WWI, is that what you call it? The wrestling. What does the wrestling stand for?
WWF.
WWE? My apologies. I remember when it was I, so it changed over the time, evolutionized. My apologies. So this is natural selection, meaning that species fight each other, compete with each other in order to survive. This is called natural selection. Where is the space of sacrifice then? When you tell an atheist, I want to sacrifice, wouldn't be he laughing at you? You're sacrificing? You're ruining your chance for survivability? This is what they tell. While every human being, whether they're knowledgeable or without knowledge, even the small children consider the morality. Morality exists in all of human beings. Otherwise, how